word is really hard to say. In fact, if you had 3 minutes to break the mold, what would you do? What would you say? If you know me, you'll know that I have a lot to say. So, the producers of this show, they gave me a time limit. 3 minutes. So in just 3 minutes, I'd love for us to discuss diversity, what it really means, and who's been left out of that definition. Let's uncover the benefits offered by programs and initiatives such as the Real Abilities Film Festival and Jazz Hands for Autism, etc., etc., etc. Now it's time for, you guessed it, facts and stats. Did you know that organizations and initiatives that are dedicated to empowering individuals who are neurodivergent play a vital role in promoting inclusivity and transformative experiences? Did you know that research shows that participating in programs tailored to individuals who are neurodivergent significantly improves social skills, self-confidence, and overall well-being? In fact, studies show that over 90% of participants in these programs report increased self-esteem and improved communication abilities. Did you also know that beyond the program location, that it's important that other entities such as the government, the private sector, all come together to contribute to equity? Because studies have shown that intersectoral or interdisciplinary approaches to equity have been more successful than siloed approaches. Today's guest on 3 Minutes with IFU is Stephen Simon, who is the Executive Director of the City of Los Angeles Department on Disabilities. Through this department, he is working to ensure that all city programs, services, activities, and facilities are accessible to all Angelinos. Prior to this position, he was the principal in the Los Angeles office of the Rabin Group, a nationally recognized progressive public policy firm addressing issues of disability, criminal justice, voting rights, and domestic violence. Without further ado, please welcome Stephen Simon to 3 Minutes with IFU. Hi everybody, welcome to 3 Minutes with IFU. Today we have Stephen from the Department on Disabilities, and he'll be telling us a lot about what the initiatives that are coming up. Thank you for joining me today on 3 Minutes with IFU.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to join you.
I'm just curious to know, like, how you ended up in this realm of work.
Well, that itself is a long story. I got back into school. I was doing a lot of academic work, mostly around race and equity, right? And I thought, you know what I need to do? I need to go to law school because the law is where it's all written down. All the isms, all of the racism, the sexism, the homophobia, the ableism, it's actually written in the law. We know what to fix. And so I went to law school and started a journey in doing HIV and AIDS activism and advocacy and law and policy, and fell in love with that. And doing that kind of work slowly blended in as I started working with the city and became the AIDS coordinator for the city. And we were housed in the Department on Disability, and I got this much broader look at all the inequities, right? Working in disability discrimination or disability inclusion ever since. Well, Executive Director and General Manager of the Department on Disability, we're one of the few full-standing city departments on disability in the country, actually. We are responsible for making sure that all city programs, services, facilities, and activities are fully accessible and inclusive of people with disabilities.
And so tell us about some of the initiatives.
Well, it's interesting. Our biggest, most regular clients are other city departments. It's our job to make sure transportation is accessible. It's our job to make sure recreation and parks is accessible. And then in either crisis or just with opportunities, we try and get really creative. So we created in Los Angeles and first sponsored the Real Abilities Film Festival.
The Department of Disabilities is all about law and policy. Do you see the Real Abilities Film Festival as a tool for advocacy?
Absolutely. Real Abilities LA is definitely a tool for advocacy. There's no question about that. You know, back in the day, a lot of our issues in city government was about housing. That's what people in the community need. Still need that, but employment. And employment in the entertainment industry, it's such a massive industry here in Los Angeles and across this country and the world. We need to make sure people along the spectrum are included in that space. You know, diversity and inclusion has got to include, again, our broader communities, absolutely, right? From set decoration to makeup and hair to producing to directing. And that's where real abilities, I think, can make a huge difference in how literally the business operates.
Yeah.
And again, for us, it's about employment in a lot of ways, but it's also just about awareness and inclusivity across the entire system. We're having this conversation at an historic moment. The Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences has rewritten or has written guidelines, inclusivity guidelines, diversity and inclusion guidelines for their Best Picture category. And I think they're out there publicly already, and it's already getting a little bit of pushback. And I understand where artists say, well, you're infringing on our right to be as creative as possible in the work we're doing. And I'd love for us to get to the point where we don't need to have those kind of guidelines, but right now we do. Because whether it's race, or gender, or sexual orientation, or disability, or neurodiversity, we don't have the inclusion that should be there.
And that's the whole point of this show, right, of 3 Minutes with Ifu, is to discuss diversity, what it means, and who's been left out of that definition. So I'm curious to know, within the Department on Disabilities, what type of work is being done to ensure that neurodiversity and maybe invisible disabilities are included in the work that you all do?
There is no question. We have more work to do in including neurodiverse communities and who we serve and how we serve them. That's something we're deeply committed to. I think a lot of that work, you're right, comes not in the physical space, and there's so much focus on physical space, but it's the programming, it's the activities piece, right? What happens at the zoo day camp, and how are the youth that participate treated, and how do folks interact with them, right? There's absolutely room to grow, and we want to make sure the city is hiring more people that can help us really be successful in that endeavor. But that's the small picture in our department. The big picture is the rest of the city has to be committed to that. And disability can't be thought of as charity work. No, they're really good employees that we're not reaching, so we don't get the message out right. So we are really working to make sure that the city's personnel efforts and the city's hiring efforts very broadly are fully inclusive of people with disabilities, people who are neurodiverse, and we're hoping we actually see a literal policy and city admin code change in the coming couple of years.
This is good. I really do appreciate that the Department on Disabilities is doing, and I think that more cities should take you all as an example, and all your other initiatives. So thank you for your work, and I hope that we can continue to collaborate to create more and more inclusion.
Absolutely, we're in.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's do it then.